In order to UV wrap multiple objects into the same UV space, we first need multiple objects, so I've gone ahead and created a quick crate and barrel for demonstration purposes. I'm using 2 objects to keep it simple, but you can use as many objects as you like, constrained by textile density and other requirements. I'll show you 2 approaches to UV unwrapping. We'll start with the easy one first. In object mode, select both of your objects or all of them. Hit spacebar to open the search and type Smart UV Project. We'll select this option. I like to give it a bit of an island margin just to keep separation between the pieces, and hit OK. If you go into UV editing and enter edit mode, you can see the UVs for our barrel. If I hit draw other objects, because I also have the crate selected, I can see the crate's UVs alongside the barrel UVs. You can see that the Smart UV Project in object mode has laid them out so that they're not overlapping. This isn't the greatest UV layout, but if I'm using Substance Painter or another automated painting tool, it might be good enough, and I can export this and start painting. But if I'm going to hand paint or send it to an artist, I might want a bit cleaner of a UV layout. So let's start from what we have here and clean up the UVs a bit. I actually first want to work on the crate, so I'll select the barrel and then the crate, and now we've entered edit mode, and I can start grabbing and marking seams. One thing I do like to do is in edit mode under options, click live unwrap. Then when I mark a seam, it will automatically unwrap, and I can see the results right away. So when I mark the seam, you can see that those have laid out nicely along my seams. I also like to click this Keep UV and Edit Mode Mesh Selection in Sync button so that I don't have to select all the faces to see how they're laying out. So that looks pretty good for our crate. So now we'll move over to the barrel. I'm not worrying yet about the fact that they're overlapping. We'll deal with that in the next step. But it's the same process. I'm going to go ahead and speed things up while I'm unwrapping the barrel, but we'll discuss the principles of UV unwrapping in another tutorial. And that'll work for our barrel. Once again, it's not the greatest UV layout, but it's a lot better than it was before. So now I can work on moving these around so that they share the same space without overlapping. I'm going to take these and move them up. Like most of UV unwrapping, this is more of an art than a science. In face selection mode, I'm just hitting L to select UV islands, giving them a bit of a margin. And I'm going to rotate this one by 90 degrees, a bit like playing Tetris. I can already see a problem in that no matter what I do, there's never going to be enough space to fit all of the UV islands that I've laid out into this space. So one technique that we can take is selecting all of the UV islands and scaling by some amount. So in this case, I'm going to scale by 0.85. Now to keep the textile density the same, I want to go to my crate and scale by the same amount. So that created a bit more room. And leaves us free to try to make them fit a little better. I'm just switching the active back and forth between the crate and the barrel. To check your work, you can turn on this stretch mode. It looks pretty good. There's a bit of angle stretching here, but it's good enough. So there you go. It's not the prettiest unwrap, but it's a lot better than it was with the Smart UV Project, and both objects are fitting into the same UV space. While I'm here, I'm going to create a new image. I'm going to call it the UV map, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to the color grid for the generated type and hit OK. Ideally, we'd be able to preview our color grid, but we're missing one piece to be able to do that. So I'll go back to default, go to the node editor. I've assigned the same material to both of these, so I will select the diffuse and hit Control T. If you're not using the Node Wrangler add-on, which I highly recommend, it's just adding a texture coordinate with the UV coordinates plugged into a point mapping, plugged into the vector input of an image texture, and we'll select the UV map that we've just created. Then, when we go to render mode, we can see the color grid in all its glory. There you go.